Hello, everyone. All right, so today we're going to expand on our phrase structure rules and theory of constituency to look at ambiguity. And I want to briefly talk about ambiguity and what it is and the different types of ambiguity that we're going to be addressing. So really, ambiguity can come in two distinct forms, and these forms can interact with each other. So the first type of ambiguity is lexical ambiguity. And lexical ambiguity is what it sounds like. It is ambiguity that involves the interpretation of a word form. So a really simple example of this is, let's take the word bank. So if you utter the sentence, I saw Jose by the bank, well, the interpretation for that will vary depending on sort of contextual information. If you are out in the woods, out camping by a river, and people are wondering where Jose is, well, it would make a lot of sense for that interpretation to be that he is down by the edge of a river, by a riverbank. However, if you are in the downtown of a major metropolitan area, yes, and you utter that sentence, the response might be, or the more natural interpretation wouldn't probably not be that, he's by the edge of a river, but rather he's by a financial institution. So again, these sentences these interpretations vary based on sort of the contextual information, and it's sort of an accident of the sort of match of lexical, just sort of lexical overlap. The other type of ambiguity we're going to look at is structural ambiguity. Now, structural ambiguity can be sort of forced by lexical ambiguity. So we can get sentences where the utterance has lexical ambiguity, and because of that will create different possibilities in our the syntax, the structure that will come about. But it will also arise because of the interaction of the rules that we are generating, and the different possibilities of constituency, without any differences in the interpretation of the sort of lexical items themselves. So a really clear example of this is what's known as attachment site ambiguity. So this deals largely with prepositional phrases. So we can see if I have a sentence like, Maria saw the spy with the telescope. Well, that can mean two distinct things. That can mean either Maria saw the spy and Maria was using a telescope to see the spy, or Maria saw a specific spy, the one with the telescope. And that, again, this is going to follow from our specific theory of constituency and our specific, which is our phrase structure rules. So let's go ahead and look at that. So again, we have our sentence here, Maria saw the spy with the telescope, and I've written up a couple of phrase structure rules here. I want to briefly review these. I know we haven't dived into these too deeply in the video series here. So we have our VP rule, and the VP rule says that a verb phrase may contain as many adverbial phrases as we would like, followed by a obligatory verb, followed by a noun phrase that is optional, followed by either a noun phrase or a complementizer phrase, another sentence, followed by as many choose from prepositional phrases or adverbial phrases as we would like. So I want to talk very briefly about the nature of this rule. There are a few caveats I want to carve out. First, the sort of multiple iteration of adverbial phrases. There are some restrictions on that maybe aren't syntactic. This is a little arguable, but we don't generally like to have the ly adverbs stacked up next to each other. So Maria ran quickly. Maria ran quickly softly. That sounds pretty weird. So those tend to not like to stack up next to each other. The optional complementizer phrase, those are for sentences like Maria told Selicum that he should leave, where that clause is still this modifier of tell, and clearly Selicum is being told in that instance, and we can even see you can get like an adverbial modifier on the other side of that clause. So Maria told Selicum that he should leave loudly, and so forth. So the VP rule maybe has a few imperfections, but it's going to work pretty well for us. This varies a little bit from what you'll find in the Carney book, but this is pretty serviceable for the types of VPs that we'll face. The noun phrase rule, again, very similar. We have our optional determiner, as many optional adjective phrases as we would like, a noun, which is our obligatory element, followed by as many prepositional phrases as we would like, and then an optional clause, which is a relative clause. And it's really these two elements, this prepositional phrase and this prepositional phrase, that are creating this attachment site ambiguity for us, and that's really what's going to create our the ambiguity that we're looking at here. So we can see, again, we have our two sentences. Maria saw the spy with the telescope, and the two interpretations. Where it's either Maria saw the spy was using a telescope or holding a telescope. It's a specific spy that Maria saw, or Maria saw the spy and Maria was using the telescope. And so we want to be able to represent those two different structures, and capture those two different ambiguities. And that's sort of our goal, because these are going to be these types of ambiguities are captured in our framework, which is good. And again, this just follows out of our phrase structure rules and the other major thing that we've discussed, which is our principle of modification, POM. So if a phrase modifies a head, then it is a constituent of that of the phrase that introduces that head. So in the example where the spy has the telescope, then that prepositional phrase must be inside the noun phrase. And in the example where Maria is using the telescope, where the seeing is being modified, then the prepositional phrase must be directly inside the VP. And we can again represent this structurally. So let's label these. We'll say sentence A. Sentence A will be, it's the spy who has the telescope. And how are we going to represent this? Well, we're going to represent this using our phrase structure rules. We're going to have Maria here as our subject. We're going to have our VP here. So Maria is going to see the spy. So we're going to have a verb saw, and our direct object, the spy, with the telescope. So our noun phrase is going to contain 3 elements. It's going to contain our determiner the. It will contain our noun spy, and it will contain our prepositional phrase, the telescope, which itself, which will contain a prepositional phrase, or a preposition, excuse me, a noun phrase, which will contain the noun telescope. And again, this is the principle of modification. Use a different color for this. Palm. This PP, this prepositional phrase. I didn't write with. Oops. Is modifying this noun. Therefore, it is a constituent of the same of the phrase that introduces the head. Let's go. We'll use a different color for B just to make this clear. We'll use blue. So we're going to, again, have our Maria in our subjects. Have to be a little bit smaller here. Our verb phrase is going to house the prepositional phrase this time, so it's going to be the 3-part thing. So we're going to have our verb, saw, our noun phrase here. Sorry, my handwriting is probably not the best, and it's even worse when I'm trying to write in paint, but I'm doing my best here. The spy. Ooh, that's hardly an S. And then our prepositional phrase out here, which is, again, the telescope. And again, this is following our principle of modification. So with forgot the determiner in this other sentence here. Fixed. Okay. Maria saw the spy with the telescope, and again, our critical thing, principle modification. This time it is modifying the verb saw, so it is a direct constituent of the VP. So attachment site ambiguities are a consequence of the framework that we're building here. So they are, and which is a positive thing because we know that they exist. So it's not the case that that this is a bad consequence. We know that they exist. This is not something that we can attribute to lexical ambiguity. This is something that is purely structural. And I want to talk a little bit about, what this all sort of means more generally. So we know, for instance, that the meaning of language more broadly is composed of something greater than just the word meanings. And this is this notion of compositional meaning. So it's not just that we combine different words together in any order and we get the meaning of something. So we have to have a notion of structure associated with that. And so our part of the, beyond just understanding what the constituency is, which we can apply through our constituency tests, we're also trying to understand how the constituency applies to the ultimate meaning. And so that's one of the things that we're doing today. Now I'm going to leave you with a challenge, and this is a challenge that my class. This is coming for you on Tuesday, but I will do this sentence for you on video as well sometime this coming week. So if you're not in the class, you can observe this as well. But the sentence is this is from an actual headline from back in the 80s. The British left waffles on Falkland Islands. And now this is an example of both lexical ambiguity and structural ambiguity. I'll leave you to figure out why as a puzzle. And we'll pick it up next time. I want to close off with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, who just very recently passed away. He is a famed Buddhist scholar, and passed away, I believe, maybe a day or two ago. And the quote from him is, "My actions are my only true belongings." And again, I wish you all good health and safety, and I will see you very soon.